Hello everyone, welcome to the first module of a new semester. As we begin Greek 2, we'll be studying the first week or so, reviewing some of the chapters we skipped in Greek 1, what I call the tough material. Last semester we didn't go over chapter 17 in full, and we're going to cover that material as well as parts of chapter 18 and 21 as we go over the present and the imperfect active, middle, and passive forms for the indicative mood. So let's turn our attention to the screen in front of you. If you recall from last semester, contract verbs by definition are verbs whose stem end in a short vowel. That short vowel will either be an epsilon, an alpha, or an omicron. And the paradigmatic verbs that we were introduced when we introduced the future forms of contract verbs was poieo. For the epsilon contract verbs, it was agapao. For the alpha contract verbs, and it was plerao. For the omicron contract verbs. If we drop the omegas, and what we're left is the stem, notice again that the stem of the contract verbs ends in a short vowel. And whenever an epsilon, an alpha, or an omicron comes in contact with the connecting vowel of the active, middle, or passive suffixes that you add to verbs, something happens to the short vowel. It undergoes a process called vowel contraction. In other words, it combines with the vowels of the verb suffixes and it forms into a diphthong or another set of vowels. And sometimes these changes might seem random, but there's actually a very easy way to learn how vowels contract or when they combine with other vowels. And so we're going to begin our study of the contract verbs by learning what we call the Big Five rules. And also, in addition to the Big Five rules, there's what I consider to be the Little Two. The Big Five plus the Little Two are a set of 7 rules altogether that allow us to understand how vowels contract. Let's clear the board and let's go over the rules. These are rules that you'll simply have to memorize in order to understand the forms for the present and imperfect indicative of contract verbs. The first rule is whenever you have a combination of an epsilon or omicron, or an omicron being combined with another omicron, you get the following contraction. So if the stem ends in an epsilon and you combine it with a connecting vowel that begins with omicron, the contraction is the diphthong u, omicron upsilon. If you add omicron to the connecting vowel that begins with an epsilon, it is also u. And 2 omicrons that combine also contract to the diphthong u. The second rule is when an epsilon combines with another epsilon, its vowel contraction is the diphthong a, epsilon iota. The third rule is that vowels other than epsilon or omicron, so basically the vowel alpha, whenever alpha is combined with an O sounding letter, whether it's the omicron or omega, alpha plus an O sounding vowel becomes omega. So it contracts together to become omega. An alpha plus an epsilon becomes an alpha. What happens is, if you recall, we learned that alpha is a vowel that can be either short or long. And when you add the connecting vowel epsilon to it, it decides to become long, and then what happens is the epsilon drops and the vowel contraction you see is the alpha. And the fifth rule, or the last rule of the Big Five, is when the stem begins with an epsilon and you add to it the alpha and it becomes an eta. And those are the Big Five rules. Now that we learned the Big Five rules, there's two additional rules that I've called the little two, and which Mounce identifies as rules 6 and 7. The sixth rule, or the first of the little two rules, is very simple. When two vowels that are the same combine, it simplifies to the same vowel. So you'll never see alpha and alpha together. Instead, it'll simplify to a single alpha. And that holds true also for diphthong. So if you add omicron to oo, the omicron simplify, and you still get the same diphthong oo. If you add epsilon to that diphthong a, the epsilons combine or simplify to an epsilon, and you still have the same diphthong being retained. The number 7 is a bit of a tricky rule, and to make it very simple, I think the easiest way is to simply memorize this vowel combination. When you have two vowels that are different and you combine them, they'll undergo the big 5 rule contractions, except for these two special cases. When the stem ends in omicron and you combine it with a verb suffix that has a connecting vowel a, the epsilon drops and the combined or the sum of the vowel contraction is oi. And when omicron combines with an a iota subscript, it also becomes oi. In this next slide, you have the big 5 rules and the little 2 rules in reverse. If you're given a contract verb and you see these vowel contractions, you know that the reason why these vowel contractions occur is because you have these possible stem vowels combining with the connecting vowels of the verb suffixes. And so these are the big 5 and little 2 rules. Now we're ready to go over the forms of the contract verb.